and it's just to put some things in order that I already already analyzed in my thesis. So you have the handouts, and just as an introduction, I will try to share the screen. We can begin with this text, number 1. It's just this basic thing that for Berthold, or at least in some passages, the principle, the supreme principle, is above the realm of intellect. No, so here is just one text where he. There are many others, but this is one text that I think it states it clearly. Cum prima Dei supersubstantialitas sit super ens, et ens sit super vitam, et haec super intellectum, patet prime Deum simpliciter esse super substantialem, super vitalem, et super intellectum. I always begin from this scheme, this like a list, like an enumeration of instances that he gives in the Proclus. The principle 1, well, here he begins from the omnia naturalia, then there are the motores celestes, then the intellectualis hypostases, vitae, enterentia, infinitates, unitates, the tenets, and then the principle, the super deus super ignotus. So also here it's clear that the principle is above the realm of intellect, which strictly speaking would be here. Oh, okay, here. Then this scheme can be converted into this one, no, more simple one, because there are only really 3 instances, 3 kinds of one, you could say, in Berthold's universe, metaphysical universe, which is the unum secundum participationem. This is wrong here. It should be here. Oh. Sorry. Well, okay. The unum secundum causam, which is the super deus. The unum secundum essentiam, which are the unitates, the tenets, and then the unum secundum participationem, which are infinitates, enterentia, vitae, intellectualis hypostases, motores celestes, etc. Okay, and the thing is that when he's commenting on the propositions of the Elementatio Zoologica that deal with the authypostata, he says that also the one is authypostaton. This is the text where, in the Latin version of Morbecchi, where Proclus says that the one cannot be authypostaton. No, this is the Latin version, which has this, how do you say this? It lacks a part, no? Precisely the justification, the argument Proclus gives. But nevertheless, you could see that the text is clear. Necesse ergo authypostatum esse post primum. And Proclus' argument, you have it here, is that since everything that proceeds from the one because of proposition 2 would be one and not one, the one cannot proceed even from itself. This is, you have here Dodd's translation. Well, this is the text where Berthold explains this text, and as Evans says in his thesis, he he mentions it, but he doesn't acknowledge the the tension, the conflict. No, he just said he just says concluded antipostatum esse post primum simpliciter. And then he goes on with the unitates. He's interested in this, but he just mentioned it. No? And then we can see this is like an introduction. No, this is the problem. No, is above intellect, and yet is one of the antipostaton. And he, regarding this, he says he speaks about the intellectual nature of the principle. And here you have the other handout here. Sorry, because it's so small. But in proposition, while commenting proposition 43, well, he says, necesse est conversivum ad se ipsum esse naturae intellectualis, natura autem intellectualis est duplex. And there are two main classes. This one, which is the one that corresponds to the intellectus possibilis, vere accidens secundum esse nature, avens tamen modum et proprietatem substantiae, et sic per se subsistentes. And these principles, he says, convertuntur ad se ipsa intentionaliter. But then there are these other classes of authypostata, of intellectual natures, which are vere substantia secundum esse nature. And these ones convertuntur ad se ipsa essentialiter. So this is what I read previously. Necesse conversivum ad se ipsa esse natura intellectualis. Natura autem intellectualis est duplex. And then there are these two main classes. No? And this one, the ones that are vere substantia secundum esse nature, which convertuntur ad se ipsa essentialiter, are of two kinds. Quedam havent respectum essentialem ad corpora. These ones are the anime totalis. And then there is this whole bunch of authypostata. Quedam sunt a tali respectu absoluta. And here we have two classes. Okay, first the one in ordine rem aliam. This is the intellectus agens. And then there are here the ones circumscripta omni alia re simpliciter et absolute. And here we have first this what he calls the intellectuales hypostases, no? Convertuntur ad se ipsa se totis et non totaliter, secundum quotor ordines rerum separatarum, intellectum substantialium, vitarum, entium et infinitorum. These ones convertuntur intellectualiter, vitaliter, enter, infinitaliter. They convert upon themselves setotis because they don't have this relation with bodies, but they don't convert upon themselves totaliter because they, he says, stands in pluribus intentiones. They are not just an unum, that's the reason. They are an unum plus other intentions. And here we have the principle, the prime unum et bonum, and then the henats, unitatis et bonitates. And they, he says in the Expositio, they stand in just one intentio, the intentio unitatis. So they convertuntur ad se ipsa setotis totaliter. Simpliciter de prime unum, contracte de unitatis, the henats. So here is where he places the one, the principle, and as you can see, he places it among the things, the separate things that has an intellectual nature. So this is basically the thing, the problem, and I just like to follow the steps, what he says about this internal intellectual process of the one, because he assimilates this reversion upon itself with the Intratrinitarian dynamics. In text 4, you can see that he even says that this name, authypostaton, can be applied to the principle propissime. It's not only is an authypostaton, but it's the supreme one. And I don't know if you have any questions here, because that would be the introduction. The problem would be that one. He, in some passages, he speaks of the principle as above the intellect, and then he speaks of the intellectual nature of the principle and speaks of the principle as one of the authypostata. And then I would like to introduce this distinction he makes, which I think he got it from Dietrich of Freiberg, this distinction between a processus originalis and a processus causalis. But first he speaks about, and this is important to understand what will come, about what is a processus or an emanatio. He says they are the same. No, we can use both terms the same way. And here I have gathered some important tenets about it. He says, emanatio distinguens, a processus is emanatio distinguens procedens a suo principio, salvans identitatem utriusque in eo quod est ratio emanandi. So, and this is the thing that he will say here. there are two elements in every process. One element of identity and one element of distinction. This will be, this will, he will this will help us to understand both the processus originalis and the processus causalis. So, si nulla esset discretio, ubi processus totalis unitio et similitude. Oh, if there were no difference, it would be a complete identity, complete unity. So there must be some element of distinction. There is some element of distinction in every process. But non tamen sic ut ab eo totaliter se iungatur. This element must not be like a complete, because otherwise we have two different things with no relations among them, between them. So lastly, we can say that a processus is an emanatio salvans discretionem unitivam et unitionem discretiva. This is the way he puts it, and he will like return to this definition. No, so it gives the two sides. No, discretion unitivam and unitionem discretiva. Well, this a process can be originalis or causalis. The processus originalis is the one that takes place within the nature of every authypostata. So the Intratrinitarian dynamics is some kind of processus originalis. So what he says here applies, will be applied later to the Intratrinitarian process. First, a processus originalis is an emanatio respectivi a respectivo. Salvans distinctionem respectivam in identitate substantiva. This can be clarified if we oppose what he says here with this definition, which will be applied to the other kind of processus, the processus causalis. Emanatio nature a natura salvans distinctionem naturalem. So here we would have like two different natures, whereas in the processus originalis we have just a respective differente. Or we can put the same thing this way. Natura, when we speak about a processus originalis, can be taken as ad aliquid et respectivum. But here, when we speak of a processus causalis, is ens quid et absolutum. There are two different entities. And then he arrives at this general definition. Processus originalis is emanatio respectivi a respectivo, salvans distinctionem respectivam in identitate substantiva. this is the text where Dietrich de Fiber, he states more or less the same thing, or he refers to this, as you can see, this respectus origins. In substantia eorum, in intellectual principles, which are in actu per essentiam, non inveniatur pars et pars, quia simplicis substantiae sunt, est tamen in quolibet eorum invenire quosdam respectus originis, qui sum respectus nature, in quantum quilibet eorum conversus est in se intelligens se ipsum per essentiam. This text is really important, number 7. It's a text by Berthold, because he makes this difference. He says, well, when we speak of this relation upon with itself, with themselves, of these entities, of these principles, we are not speaking of relation in an Aristotelian sense, in the sense of the predicamenta. Sumo hic respectivum generalius relativo. Cum nunquod ens relativum sive relatio determinatur ad unum decem generum rerum predicamentarium. Respectivum autem in pluribus alis invenitur, quae etiam extra genus sunt. This would be, he will return to this when he's speaking about the Trinity. And then we have this processus causalis. He first says that is eductio vel exitus rei de potentia ad actum. Then he says, semper tendit in diversitatem nature. Natura must be understood in the sense we set as an ens quid, something absolute, separate. Omnis processus causalis necessario efficitur per similitudinem. And this is the thing about the causal process. We had in every process an element of distinction and an element of identity. This identity in the originalis processus is given because we are speaking about something that takes place within a nature, the same nature, a same one nature. And we have the element of distinction because there are these different respectus. Here, the element of distinction has to do with this, because there are different natures. There is a cause and an effect. But the element of identity is given because there is something common between them. This would be, Berthold says, the intention, would be the same intention. It would be an identity because they share a same intent. That's why there is some kind of similitude. agit autem quodque persuam formam. Ergo necesse est quod in producto similitudo forme agentis, cum omne agens agat sibi simile, quae similitudo est identitas. And then we arrive at this like general definition of the processus causalis. Is an emanatio naturae a natura salvans distinctionem naturalem in identitate intentionale. So this would be the difference between these two kind of processes. And what he will say is that, and this too he takes it from Dietrich, is that there cannot be an causal process if there isn't previously an original process. And he will apply this idea to the creation. Creation is a causal process, and so it must be there must be previously some kind of original process. This original process, which allows the creation to be, is the Intratrinitarian dynamics. Okay, and one this definition of emanatio causalis, of processus causalis, is not actually the definition of creation. It's the definition of every causal process. So creation is a causal process. So this definition can be applied to creation, but it applies also to every kind of causal process. Well, and then there is this second part where I will speak about how this processus originalis actually takes place within the one, within God, the super Deus. Of course, the beginning is also a text by Dietrich. He speaks about this original process, yes, this transfusio perspectiva, which takes place within the nature of the creator, and it has to do also with the Trinity. And he quotes Proclus regarding this, of course. So this is, you could say, this is the source, Berthold's source. But the text where I think where he most clearly states why there must be an original process within God before, as a condition to create, as a requisite to create, is this one, text 10. Nullum procedens cognitive et specialiter, ubi cognitio et essentia est idem simpliciter. Tendit in extra causali emanatione, nisi prius natura formet seu producat in se, et ex se rationem operis, et speciem originali emanatione. No, this is a requisite. Exists this word in English, requisite. This requirement, that's the word. So there must be this. The nature that produces must have, if it is an intellectual nature, must have like this species, this ratio operis. And that would be this first like plan would be the sun, the logos, the second person. And then we have this long text about the Trinity, and he gives some details about the way this original process takes place. Natura divina non est aliqua hypostasis nec subsistet per modum suppositi sive prime substantiae. No, he says this because he will say that you cannot speak about these relations in the way you speak about relation when you speak about predicamento. And also you cannot speak about the superdeus, the principle, as something determined, like the prima substantia, like a prima substantia. Then there's this one. Well, the whole text is like amazing, but there is this part, and natura divina in primo supposito respectivo, silicet patre. Oh, here you have the name of the first respectivus in the Godhead. Ratio es in this primo supposito es ratio seu principium sive potentia tendendim in se ipsum non ut objectum sed ut in principium. Because if it would tend to itself ut objectum, something it will lack something. Like that, this would be some kind of objective in the sense of a goal. Dico autem patrem tende in se ipsum, quia per se subsistens et sic independence. So this is the way per se subsistence is the translation of authypostata. So here it is clearly stated that this first respectivus, the Father, is per se subsistence. Omne autem tale habet necessariam et per se habitudinem tendendi in se ipsum. This is like, well, let's say that that's an essential characteristic of every authypostaton. Et sic ec tali fecunditate divine nature exprimit seu dicit se ipsum in altero. This is I found it beautiful, this text. And then he says here that the generation of the Son takes place modo nature, and he will say later that the procession of the Spirit does not take place modo nature, but by an intellectual inclination. he cannot say here that the Father thinks because the Son is the thinking. And he speaks here of moda natura. So here you can see why he had distinguished earlier about two senses of natura. Not understand natura as meaning ens aliquid, something absolutum, but as meaning something, one of these respectivos. And then here you can see that spiratio, the procession of the spirit, takes place modo inclinationis intellectualis. That means like through the Son, or salvans distinción respectiva in identitate substantiva. So he returns to this definition of original process. And then there is something important, that this is the requirement that this internal process, this original process takes place, is the requirement for the one to create, to have this other process, the causal process. But this does not mean that the creation, the causal process, is a necessity or something that the one needs to. It's not its goal. Here he says, in this process, consisted perfectissima eius beatitudo. Etiam praeter omnem respectum ad creatura. Okay, and here we have this difference that I told you. The generation of the Son takes place modo natura, whereas the procession of the Holy Spirit modo inclinationis intellectualis, or inclinatio by an inclinatione voluntatis. He said, because when you speak about intellect, you can speak about voluntas.